The time is now 7 o'clock.
South Korea is dealing with the fallout, and dealing might be even too soft of a word. I'm going to say reeling from the very short-lived martial law declaration that went down. And for some who lived through the 1970s and 80s, well, the phrase, the words, martial law may have actually struck fear in many people. But the state of martial law lasted, technically just 2.5 hours, with a total ordeal that took about 6 hours. Some experts attribute this to the millions of eyes via cell phone cameras and online streaming watching the situation unfold in real time. Well, things were different 45 years ago, in part because of the watchful eyes of the people, very different yesterday. And the power of the people is the force that definitely safeguards democracy. I'm Catherine. This is Morning Wave in Busan on Thursday, December 5th on befm, 부산영어방송. Good morning, Wavers. I hope you're all doing well, and hopefully you got some sleep last night, because I know for those of you who were up the night prior, some of you were probably glued to radio, television, watching all the news. And I'm sure you're still following the story along with us here at Morning Wave in Busan. Our top story, once again, we're talking about what happened after the declaration of martial law, after it was lifted. Now we're talking about the aftermath. What now? Well, this was the first time that South Korea was under emergency martial law in like I said, 45 years, and definitely the first under a parliamentary democracy. So some may be wondering whether the country was backtracking, going back in history. Well, here's what was different in the year 2024. The entire debacle, we'll call it, was broadcast live, not just by traditional media, but via the general public through social media. The entire 155-minute process and then some were all recorded and shared through social media in real time as citizens literally ran to the National Assembly building, smartphones in hand, and even lawmakers joined in live streaming what was going on, and obviously outside the National Assembly building as well, as they were trying to get in to the building. Democratic Party Chair Lee Jae-myung live broadcast himself climbing the wall into trying to get into the National Assembly, and I'm sure some of you saw that, right? That was watched by nearly 2.4 million people. National Assembly Speaker Woo Won-sik's personal channel was watched by over 600,000 people as well. And some experts say that this is likely one of the reasons that martial law was lifted relatively quickly without any major clashes like decades ago. And they say that 45 years ago, it was easier to take over the traditional media as broadcasters couldn't share what was happening in real time. Although experts do cast questions as to how well prepared and executed Tuesday's martial law declaration was, they also say that the entire country and the world watching had a deterring effect as well. So that is what we're covering today. Obviously, the biggest news here domestically and being extensively covered around the world as well. But we do want to take time to go over a text topic. We need to warm our hearts a little this morning, don't you think? So is there someone that makes your day just a little bit better? Someone you are thankful for? Maybe you don't even know this person like real personally, but someone that just kind of maybe brings a warm, fuzzy feeling in your heart or just makes you smile. So for example, just an example, maybe the security guard that always says hello first, right? Yes. Those people sometimes we may take for granted, but we shouldn't. Maybe the people who wake up earlier than you do and like clear all the fallen leaves, or depending on where you are, even the fallen snow, so that, you know, other people don't fall down, things like that. Even your local coffee shop barista who goes that extra mile, takes that extra step to, you know, draw like a happy face, the pretty heart leaf, you know, if you're getting a latte in your coffee. So things like that, just the little things that people do, but the people behind those small deeds is what we're looking for. So 추운 날씨에 마음이라도 따뜻하게 일상을 살며 내가 고마운 분들은 누군지. 네, so you can send your messages to BFM's live stream, live chat on YouTube. So go to the YouTube platform, and you can find our channel by typing in befm or 부산영어방송. You can subscribe, log in, and then chat with our other waivers. Also, pound 9050 on your phone. It's going to cost you 100 won. You can also reach me for free through Kakao Talk. So same thing there. To find our channel and add us as a friend, type in BEFM or 부산영어방송. You can send in your messages and photos as well. And the ways you can listen to us on the radio, it's 90.5 and 103.3 FM, depending on where you are in the Busan vicinity. Also, like I just said, we're streaming live as we speak on YouTube. You can watch us at your leisure. We are available on 2 apps. We have our own BFM app, also available on the Patbang app as well. Both are free to download. So today we have Chris coming in for Beyond the Headlines and Stephanie in hour number 2 for City Insights. For hour number 1, though, we have a special interview where we're going to be talking with our resident professor, Professor Kim Byung-ju, about the aftermath of what is happening as we speak after martial law. And then in hour number 2, there is this concept called holding space. Have you heard about this? So this is a term, a therapeutic term that is actually finding its way into pop culture, and it's getting fresh attention right now, especially because of the release of Wicked. That's one reason. But we want to know more behind this holding space concept. That's coming up in hour number 2. And I'll be back with Haley in just a minute. In the meantime, before we get to Haley, we're going to get to our special interview. And I'll be back with that in just a moment. It is now time for Busan Updates. We have Haley in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
And yes, before we dive into what's on the minds of everybody and, of course, our local news, we need a little reprieve. Something that's going to kind of warm us up.
Something good?
Yes, definitely. We need to take just a mini break away from what's going on. So who makes your day a little better?
All right. Let's see. I have so many people.
Yes.
Our security guard. Shout out to our security guard who
Yes.
always tells me, 아이고 일찍 나가시네요. Every single morning. He's great. And then when I come home, there's this like father-daughter duo. I think she's in elementary school, and he's always with her as she's practicing jump roping. But I see her with the jump rope around her neck. She never jump rope. She's just chatting away to her dad.
With her dad.
And he's just like you can kind of see like he so loves her, but his eyes are kind of empty because he's like,
Glazed.
oh my God. He's like, I want to go inside. It's cold. Yeah, I don't know. It's like, it's those things. The world is what the world is. But I'm like, you know what? It's like life is, it's about this.
You know what?
Yeah.
For me, there's a lovely lady who comes to the station before we all get here. She gets our space ready, the cleaning crew. But I actually, every time I see her in the morning, I feel this kind of this warmth because I'm so thankful for her.
Right.
Not just because of
And
the
she's
work
also
she
a
does.
lovely person.
She's really, really nice. Not just that, not because we're clean, but because I kind of feel the sense of normalcy.
Yes.
Even on that morning, like the morning after yesterday.
Because on
Yes.
holidays, rightfully so, she's not here. And the
you
station's
feel
like
her
dark
absence.
and cold. And
Yes.
like,
So I feel like, someone's there kind of waiting for me.
Right,
So that's my person that I want to give a shout out to. All right, we're going to jump into Busan Updates. For our first Busan issue, we're going to talk about the city's response to this martial law turmoil.
Right, so we're going to be covering some local issues related to the martial law situation. Mayor Park Hyung-jun and the City Council's chairman An Sung-min, they convened an urgent meeting yesterday and agreed to do their best to protect the people's safety and their livelihoods as the country's state affairs are going through some rapid changes. And they thanked the people of Busan for calmly continuing with their lives and showing how mature South Korea's democratic society is.
Yes.
And also vowed that their respective institutions will carry on with their duties unwaveringly.
But there are also voices coming out from various parts of the cities condemning the martial law declaration.
Right. And with the situation moving on to kind of an impeachment phase, we will continue to see these declarations.
Yes.
But first, with the chief judge, the Bujang Pansa of Busan Regional Court, Kim Do-gyun, he posted a criticism of the Supreme Court, actually. And this was on the court's internal website. So he wrote that the Supreme Court on the night of the martial law declaration, coming on to the morning, did not make an official statement during that process, but only gave a statement after everything ended and simply expressed relief. So with this, Judge Kim said that the Supreme Court not expressing its opposition to martial law as the final institution that safeguards the people's basic rights, and its position seemed to basically be in cooperation to the government as it was trying to take the judicial powers away from the judiciary branch.
Yes.
So he therefore called for responsibility from the Supreme Court, including all the way to the top, the Chief Justice. And then now coming on to kind of civic society and academic society.
Right.
The Association of Professors at Busan National University, or PNU, yesterday, they also issued a joint declaration on the state of affairs. This is what's called 시국선언 in South Korea, condemning the president's martial law declaration, calling it flawed, unconstitutional, and an illegal act. Also an act of anti-democratic violence that topples the values of peaceful democracy. So the professors also called for a full investigation into the president and those responsible, as well as the president's resignation.
Right. So once again, some of the local response to what went down. For our next update, we're going to talk about the Lotte Giants, but not a great story because a baseball player for the Giants apparently has been caught driving under the influence.
Right. So Giants pitcher Kim Do-gyu, he has been disciplined by the KBO, the Korea Baseball Organization, after he was caught driving drunk. So according to reports, this 26-year-old pitcher, he went out with some friends. This happened last month. Got behind the wheel a few hours later.
Right.
Got a DUI bust and showing his blood alcohol concentration, the BAC, on par with license cancellation. By the way, in South Korea, that's 0.08%.
Yes.
So minimal. So the KBO stated that in accordance with its rules, it has suspended Kim for 70 games in the upcoming 2025 season. And then Kim, after that, informed the Lotte Giants of what happened.
Yes.
And he was immediately excluded from training. But here's the thing. The Giants, this isn't the third time an alcohol-related scandal has broken out with the team. And by the way, this is just within this 1 year.
Okay.
Let's look at this infielder, Bae Young-bin. Last November, he was kicked out of the team. And Na Yun-an, who was found out to having had a very big late-night party with a friend a night before an important game. And he was suspended from 3 matches because of that.
I see. Well, there are consequences to actions.
Right.
So, yes.
Especially if you break the law.
Break
So,
the law and also just,
put others in danger.
Exactly.
DUI. Yeah, there's no
DUI.
excuse.
Yes. All right, let's move on. There have been calls for an Independence Hall at Citizens Park for some years now, and I guess it's finally going to happen.
And we have a design for that, so it is happening.
Okay.
So Busan City announced earlier in the week that it has selected the design for the Busan Independence Hall 독립운동기념관 from the Haean architecture firm. So the entire building is going to be a 2-story building, but it's going to have this kind of a flipped design on its head, quite literally, with the memorial hall aspect on the first floor and an open garden on the second floor,
I
as opposed
see.
to what we would normally see with the garden on the ground floor. So this is going to be in the middle of Busan Citizens Park. The current 시민 사랑채 building will be remodeled to this Independence Hall. The procedures will wrap up next year with construction breaking ground next year as well. The goal is to have it open and running by the year 2026.
Yes, yes. Well, another commemorative feature is set to be established out here in front of Busan National University. So what's this?
Right. So Kumjonggu District announced and actually unveiled the October 16th Puma Busan Masan Democratic Uprising, the honorary street in front of the university.
Right.
So this 부마항쟁 is one of the top democratic movements in the country's history, and the intent is to educate and make it come to life for the younger generations for years to come. So this is a 440-meter portion of the street in front of PNU. It's been designated the 1016 부마항쟁로, has installations showing the history of the uprising, the stories from participants, and major figures with photos and descriptions.
Yes, indeed. Very important to commemorate all of that part of history. And now it is a season of festivities. I know it doesn't feel like it, but let's talk about this event that's coming up.
Right, life does go on, and kids shouldn't suffer. So this is the Christmas Special Magic Gala show, and this is by Busan City and Busan International Magic Festival Organizing Committee. So this happens on Saturdays and Sundays for this weekend and next weekend. So 7th, 8th, 14th, and the 15th at the Busan Museum of Movies. So this is actually a part and a final part of the Busan International Magic Festival. So we're going to see multiple winter and Christmas-themed magic shows from magicians around the world. And for details, go to HIBIMF.org.
All right. Thank you for the updates, Haley. And now it's back to you, the listeners out there, for your take on who may kind of go unnoticed sometimes, but kind of warms up your heart. That's what we're looking at. Here is your traffic and weather, and then I will be back. Actually, we're going to go straight to our special interview right now. So we'll be back with Professor Kim in just a moment.
Are you an early bird? Are you up to date on the news? Are you a trendsetter? For all of the biggest issues from Busan to the world and useful information you need, right here on Morning Wave in Busan.
And like I said, we have two special interviews planned for you today. So the first of which is regarding the martial law aftermath. So this is the second day of South Korea's coverage of what's happening ever since President Yoon Suk-yeol declared martial law and then lifted that upon a vote from the National Assembly. So this issue is rapidly developing and spreading to so many facets. Plus, this is a fluid situation. So let's parse through the political and diplomatic aspects of this story with our expert, Professor Kim Byung-ju, who is a former diplomat and affiliate professor now at Hankuk University of Foreign Studies. Let's see what he has to say. Hi, Professor. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. We all know that you are very much an expert on diplomacy and political science with your vast experience and, of course, studies. But we're very curious about your take on what went down. So, first of all, in going over that, your opinion and your overview, do you think the president, did he not anticipate that the National Assembly would vote to lift martial law after he declared so?
As you mentioned, this is the second day after president's action on martial law. And I was checking on the media report as well as this morning's newspapers and so on. I think that question you asked still remains as a puzzle to everybody. And I don't think anyone has a clear answer on what exactly was going on in his mind exactly. And reviewing different kind of reports and speculations so far, the consensus seems to be even within his cabinet, people didn't know except very small number of very closest, some of his closest associates. And even within, I saw the media reports that I found kind of unbelievable. Even within presidential office, the staff didn't know about it. To what extent it's true or not, we need more time probably to find out.
Yes. And so, like you say, Professor, everybody around him thus far from the reports you say are claiming that they simply did not know, at least most of the people.
Right.
But this story, it's not just a domestic issue. This was like the big story across many of the international news outlets as well. So how is this being portrayed, viewed, and reported on within the international community at large?
I think there's a wide spectrum of differences the way this case has been treated internationally, starting off from the more like a perspective, observer perspective, who do not have as much of an interest in Korea or understanding of Korea, just getting astonished. They think Korea is a world power whose presence is everywhere in their daily lives. I've heard this expression many times. International commentators say Korea has its presence everywhere in our daily life, movies, arts, entertainment, cars, computers. They're all saying this. And they say still, yet, in that country that produces all these things that affects our daily lives, actually, things like a martial law can be practiced. Mm-hmm. They express astonishment, surprise, and they ask a question: what's the status of Korean democracy? How does Korean politics work? We didn't have any knowledge about this before, and now we wonder. That's one end of the spectrum response,
right?
And the other end of the spectrum response comes from those people who've been following Korea over the years, and some of the aged observers who have been following Korea for decades, who understand Korean politics and history, actually who say this is another case where it demonstrated an impressive level of resilience of Korean's democracy. The very fact that martial law itself was in effect only for about 2 hours and a half after presidential announcement until the legislature, National Assembly, struck it down. It was only 2 hours and a half. And they said how quickly Korean people responded. And those people who rushed to the National Assembly, staging protest and helping lawmakers enter the National Assembly in order to strike down the announcement itself. It showed the strength of Korean democracy. So the reaction from the international community is quite divided and kind of diverse in terms of spectrum and its scope.
Yes. So a wide spectrum, as you say, Professor, but also this is not just a political story, not just one about, the resilience of Korean democracy, but even internationally, economically, the credit rating, how the world views Korea through an economic lens. That's also important too, is it not?
That question has been asked me repeatedly throughout the day yesterday through my international calls, conference calls, and so on. And I've been offering them my own reply that it's difficult to think about the scenario where presidential announcement of martial law could have direct impact on Korean economy, manufacturing, service industry, the way Korea produces things and serve the world's demand here. And they mostly agree. I recognize the fact that a currency market, while President himself was making his announcement, we saw a currency market reacting quite dramatically, value of Korean won falling very sharply and stuff. So we saw a reaction from the financial market and short-term reaction, and it is a fact. But the thing is, even in the longer term, whether financial market will be affected by this, there is a question. Of course, if martial law had been, in fact, put in place for extended period of time, I mean, this case just ended very briefly. Everyone knows that. And so with exactly what happened this time, there seemed to be not so much of a significant impact in the financial market or economy. But if martial law had been put into place in an extended period of time, the way it's designed to be, of course, there could be quite serious negative impact, as some of the cabinet members have made an argument for. We hear reports that some of the cabinet members of the Yoon government actually strongly argued against martial law, saying talking about the impact on economy and so on. I think those are all real. The foreseen impacts on the economy, that's all real. But the fact that it just happened very, very briefly, like a blip, and it just didn't mean much in terms of impact on the economy, the actual impact of it.
Yes. We'll continue to watch the situation on that front. I also want to tackle this issue from a diplomatic angle, Professor. As we understand, the president of Kyrgyzstan was on a state visit to Korea when martial law was declared, if you can confirm that. And also the prime minister of Sweden, from what I understand, canceled the trip to South Korea. So do you think that the impact of this, however brief the martial law was, that it's going to have an impact diplomatically or with countries, our allies and such all around the world?
The way I see it, the way I remember, President Yoon has been always known as someone who leads Korea with a firm belief in Korea's commitment to a world community, contributing to the world community as an important power. And advocating liberal values and important human rights issues and all those kind of things. Value-driven leader of a democratic nation. That's the way he has been presented to the world. And up until this announcement, he has been quite consistent. We didn't see him wobbling or changing his positions. He was very consistent, and his image has been very firm. But with this announcement, his own image, I'm sure, has been considerably compromised. And I saw yesterday Japanese Prime Minister's reaction to this case. And he was going over a statement cautiously, like typical Japanese style, very cautious reaction, showing concerns and expressing support for Korea and so on. But I could somehow kind of read it in his face, basically. Him thinking about his key partner here in Korea and having very mixed thoughts, right? From Japanese Prime Minister's perspective. This person in Korea that he has to work with going forward. And I could sense kind of expression of disbelief that his key partner in world affairs actually has taken a decision to impose martial law in this country, which is one of the top powers of the world now, one of the top 10 or 7 powers in the world. And I could see a sense of disbelief in his face. Maybe it was just me, I don't know. But those kind of challenges has been put forward by president's action, I guess.
Yes. And even when you mention partnership and allies, the United States, of course, comes to mind. We have 28,500 American troops stationed here. And not just that, but the partnership between South Korea and the U.S. Do you think that this will affect the relationship? Has it so far? Because it seemed like the White House, they did not know either that this was coming.
I guess, as I mentioned, as an overall kind of reaction from the world community has been shown, it's kind of like two very different kind of dimensions that the world community sees, as well as United States side seems to see here. The two very different faces of Korea. One very important face of Korea is the strength of Korean democracy that has been, strengthened and fortified over the past several decades through people power that has changed and pushed dictators out one by one through the people power. There is unprecedented level of people power, the power of democracy here in Korea that's witnessed once again. That's reassuring picture. That's one face, one very important face. And there is a second slightly concerning face where, they see the face of the personal leader, a person who shocked the world by making this decision that surprised everybody.
Yes.
So it's a mixed picture. And we know, like Tony Blinken, U.S. Secretary of State, emphasized that positive side of Korea's view. He said, once again, we saw the strength of Korean democracy. Korean democracy is one of the strongest in the world. And And we saw the clear evidence this time, clearly. So Tony Blinken was saying that. And at the same time, Jake Sullivan, the national security advisor for Biden, he mentioned the U.S. desire to want to see Korea further strengthening the system here so that we will no longer see any other kind of possibility of instability and so on. So those two kind of slightly different reactions kind of seem to reflect these two phases of international community's reaction to what happened in Korea the day before yesterday.
Right. And as we are almost ready to wrap up our interview, but I need to pose this question because this is a question that most people are really wondering about. In your opinion, what is going to happen? I know it's very difficult to predict, but what do you see happening with President Yoon as he is the main player in the stage, right on the stage right now? What do you think is going to happen, Professor?
I was thinking throughout the day yesterday, one of the key factor in determining future course, political future for the president is what happens to in his party, People Power Party. And as of this morning, I saw reports that PPP, People Power Party, has for now decided as their position, try to prevent impeachment, stop any kind of efforts for impeachment. And they're together, going together with that probably implies, I'm not sure, I haven't confirmed fully, but maybe not even resignation of the president. So PPP has showed a stance that they're going to support President Yoon. And I heard the report that I read this morning says that includes Han Dong-un, the current party leader, as well, who showed different stance, the Tuesday night.
Yes.
So I guess that position of PPP, People Power Party, kind of determines the short-term course of the direction of political development here in Korea.
Yes.
In the long run, however, I still see very serious possibility where questions will continue to be raised about the president's ability to make important decisions.
Indeed.
And what it means for Korea, and whether what he did Tuesday night was the proper thing according to the Constitution. Possibility of such challenge is still out there.
Yes. Well, we will, of course, continue to follow this top story. Thank you so much for joining us today, Professor.
Thank you very much.
This is Professor Kim Byung-ju with our special interview. It's time for your traffic report. So it's now 7:32 on this Thursday morning. There is some backup on the Dongso overpass from Pumnikor ramp to the Old Gaegeum tollgate. Also congested on Nakdong-Namno from Gangsa Police Station to Seongsan Three-Way intersection. It's also looking slow right now on Gwanmun-dero from Bangam Tunnel to Baekyang Tunnel. As for the weather, it's currently 4 degrees Celsius here in Centum City under partly cloudy skies with a daytime high expected to go up to 12 degrees. Looking at the rest of the country, we're looking at near zero or even sub-zero temperatures in the central and Gangwon regions, looking at a very cold morning. Snow forecast in some parts of the country. The roads are expected to be slippery and even with low visibility, so please be careful as you're heading out today. This was your traffic and weather.
Stay tuned. You're listening to Morning Wave in Busan.
It's now time for News Digest, which means Haley's back in the studio with us. And of course, I wish we could bring you other good stories, but this is the story. So we're going to continue to cover it as we always do here on Morning Wave in Busan. Top story that today is the opposition's impeachment motion against President Yoon Suk-yeol.
Right. So we're continuing the report from where Professor Kim Byung-ju left off, talking about the impeachment. So the 6 opposition parties. We're talking about the Democratic Party, the Rebuilding Korea Party, Reform Party, Progressive and Basic Income parties, along with the Social Democratic Party. They jointly introduced the motion to impeach President Yoon Suk-yeol to the National Assembly early this morning. So this is 탄핵 소추안 본회의 보고. So the motion includes all 190 members of the opposition parties, plus an independent lawmaker, Kim Jong-min. So the grounds are that Yoon's martial law declaration from the previous day did not meet any of the criteria for such declaration. And this was against the law and unconstitutional, thereby violating the principle of separation of powers. The plan, as they did, they're following this, introduced a motion early today. This happened at 12:49 in the morning, and vote on it either tomorrow or the day after. So this is because under the law on impeachments, the National Assembly has to vote on an impeachment bill between 24 hours. So they at least have to wait 24 hours up to 72 hours following its introduction.
I see. The big question, though, is, do they have the numbers to get this over the line for impeachment?
It's been, 7 years since we have seen a presidential impeachment bill. So let's go through the basics of South Korean presidential impeachment.
Okay.
So you need a majority, so half plus one of the lawmakers to sign on to the impeachment motion. So it's 대적의원의 과반수 발의. So there are 300 lawmakers in the South Korean parliament. 150. So 151, check, we have that.
Okay.
And then you need 2/3. It's the magic number. 2/3 of the lawmakers to vote yes to impeach a president. That would be 200. So let's do the math.
Okay.
We currently have 192 opposition lawmakers, including Speaker Woo Won-sik and independent lawmaker Kim Jong-min.
Yes.
So that means you need 8 lawmakers from the ruling People Power Party to kind of go against the party line. Yes, I can confirm what Professor Kim said is true. The PPP has decided to adopt the official party line as we do not support the impeachment of the president. So you need 8 lawmakers to basically go away from that and vote yes. Well, Reform Party leader Lee Jun-suk reportedly claims that he already has 6 of these votes as he is from previously from the PPP. So if this passes, when this passes, the president's powers would immediately be suspended and the prime minister would step in as acting president. Then this goes to the Constitutional Court, 헌재, which will deliberate on whether this removal from office was warranted.
Yes, so that is what's going on that front, the impeachment front. So now we're going to go to the presidential office where a number of senior secretaries and the defense minister resigned or actually offered their resignation following this whole debacle.
Right. So earlier in the day, the Democratic Party pushed for another impeachment motion, this time against the defense minister, Kim Yong-hyun. He has been named as the figure who actually proposed this martial law declaration. But then soon after this impeachment motion was filed, Kim actually sent a message to reporters saying that he has offered his resignation to the president and said that everyone, all the soldiers who carried out the duties related to martial law were acting under his orders. So he takes full responsibility.
Yes.
And then the presidential office yesterday morning announced a series of resignations from senior aides, including the chief of staff, now I suppose ex-chief of staff or soon to be ex-chief of staff Chung Jin-seok convened a meeting yesterday morning where they agreed to resign en masse. So I believe there are 7 figures who resigned, but the top figures include not only Chung but also the national security advisor Shin Won-sik and the senior chief of policy Song Tae-yoon. However, having this many aides resign from the top jobs really frees the presidential office's activities.
Right.
So we don't yet know how many of them will be accepted.
I see. So once again, the offering of resignations, we'll see how that goes. But this may not be the last of the resignations that are sent in.
Right. So it really depends on how especially the ruling party responds.
Yes.
So the ruling party held a series of meetings, a supreme leaders meeting, and then a meeting of the lawmakers yesterday morning. So all the members agreed on these two issues, 내각 총사퇴 and 국방장관 해임. So that would be the full resignation of the cabinet and the dismissal of the defense minister. That's more or less in motion right now.
Okay.
The third part that they were kind of torn back and forth on was whether the ruling party would request the president leave their party, 탈당. So the party's even currently split in two right now. Their official stance is that they are obviously not requesting this at this point. They're also opposing the impeachment. But this also could signal some rifts within the ruling party.
Yes, yes. And the Democratic Party, as we know, taking its demands further than that, though.
Right. So obviously with the impeachment motion going on, in terms of resignations, they're calling for the resignation of the president, if not impeachment, as they could vote on it as early as tomorrow morning at 12:49. So this is a rapidly developing story.
Yes, yes. All right. So let's change, direction just a little bit. We're going to talk about the armed forces, storming the National Assembly, which is the first time this has happened in the country's history. So we need more details about this. Like, what exactly went down?
Right. So now we have the official figures.
Okay.
According to the National Assembly Secretary General Kim Min-gi during a briefing, about 280 martial law soldiers entered the National Assembly fully armed across two occasions. He also lodged strong objections to this illegal and unconstitutional activities. Apparently, the Defense Ministry sent in 24 helicopters that sent in 230 armed soldiers and another 50 soldiers joining on foot, jumping the walls to get into the National Assembly building. We did see armed forces using their guns and hammers to break the National Assembly windows. And the National Assembly released a 50-second footage of the CCTV footage of this happening. Some aides and employees were apparently injured in the process, and therefore the National Assembly has banned the employees of the Defense Ministry and even the police from entering the parliamentary offices completely. However, interviews and reports do say that there was a difference in the attitudes of the top ranks of the police and the military versus the officers and officials who are actually on the scene, as especially they were younger officers.
Yes, yes. And I also want to go back to the now dismissed martial law command, 계엄사. President Yoon named the Army Chief of Staff and not the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Right. So this is the final story I'll be covering for today's News Digest.
Yes.
The commander of the martial law command, it's usually he, wields tremendous power during such times. For reference, in the last martial law situation 45 years ago, then General Chun Doo-hwan had this job, just to show you how powerful this job can be. Well, President Yoon, when he declared martial law, named 4-star General and Army Chief of Staff 육군총장 Park An-soo to that position.
Okay.
This position controls the executive and judicial institutions. But that position is usually thought of as belonging to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who is Kim Myung-soo. By the way, Kim has a Navy background, so a lot of people are wondering, well, why not the top job in the military receive this position? So there are questions as to why. And one theory is that Yoon apparently referenced the controversial martial law documents from the ex-Park Geun-hye administration, which also named then Army Chief of Staff as the command of the martial law commander.
I see. So those are the details that you have uncovered for us. So thank you for thoroughly covering this story, and we'll check in with you in hour number 2. Thank you, Haley.
See you in a bit.
All right. I'll be back in just a moment with Cat's Pick. Well, today's Cat's Pick is about, the story. And this is a clip from Sky News coverage regarding what went down from the perspective of a foreign outlet. So here's the clip.
Anger outside the National Assembly in Seoul. Protesters calling on the president to leave office. His brief foray into martial law over. His political future in peril.
The president's audacious move rattled these people and South Korea's democracy, but it remains intact, and everyone here is determined to keep it that way.
Whole night I couldn't sleep. Very scary. Was very scary because we had the experience 30, 40 years ago, Gwangju, you know?
It was horrible things. All the helicopters floating, and all the soldiers had a gun, a very long gun. So we're just normal people. So all the people was scared.
South Korea has not had a night like this in decades. Political turmoil on a whole new level. A motion to impeach the president has now begun.
Impeaching a president is not really a fun thing to do, not even for a lawmaker. But this person, Yoon Suk-yeol, has done something crazy that violates the Constitution. He basically committed a coup d'etat. Impeachment is not a choice anymore, it's a must.
It was an astonishing, unexpected move by an unpopular leader. A fleeting declaration of martial law that took him just 6 hours to back down from, but only after stoking a crisis and outrage. The opposition say he must go.
Yoon Suk-yeol is not in his right mind. His judgment and situational awareness are not normal. It has been confirmed that he is in such a seriously abnormal state that he should not be performing his duties as president, even for a single minute or second.
And so that is one outlet. Let's take Sky News covering this story. And this was Kat's Pick for today. It is time for us to greet Chris for Beyond the Headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm being okay compared to yesterday where, there was a lot of lack of sleep, a lot of confusion. Things are kind of settling down. As they say, this is like the aftermath of what happened, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so how have you been?
Well, it's been a confusing couple of days for me as well, as I'm sure it's been for everybody. I was actually looking forward to coming in this week and talking about the history of the Jong in Korea, but this just really kind of threw that out the window.
Yes.
And in fact, I was going to bed on Tuesday when a friend called me and he told me about the declaration of martial law for the first time since 1979. And I was really confused because in my mind, martial law is declared for emergencies like war. And so I was afraid that we were being attacked.
Yes.
So after he hung up, I immediately went to my news sources and read what was going on. And I was even more confused as to why the president would declare martial law. In fact, I was so confused that I just gave up and went to bed.
Yes. And I'm sure you weren't the only one that was confused because I was getting messages and emails from, friends and family abroad that were really sincerely worried, what's going on? Are you okay? So you're not the only one. So are you still confused? Have you heard some of the explanations?
Well, I think I've got it sorted. On Tuesday night, President Yoon declared martial law. In that declaration, he did 6 things. First, he banned all political activities, including the work of the National Assembly, any rallies, protests, prohibited any act denying or attempting to overthrow the democracy, took over all media, prohibited strikes and assembly activities, and forced all medical personnel who were already on strike to return to work, and tried to minimize the convenience to daily life. But then he backed down and canceled the martial law after 190 lawmakers, including 18 members of his own party, voted to overturn the decree. There was a tense moment after the military said that they wouldn't back down until the president lifted the order, but eventually he did. Did I get that right?
Pretty much. And the thing is, he really had no choice because, according to the Constitution, if more than half of the lawmakers vote to, overturn the martial law, he has to comply. So
yeah, and I'm no expert in Korean history, but I know most people my age and older have some connection to South Korea's use of military law, especially those who helped create the Korea that it is today.
Yes.
My friend who called me on Tuesday night still talks about his involvement during the June democratic struggle in 1988. So the crackdowns he experienced in his youth, I'm sure he was remembering some bad things as all of this was happening.
Yes. I even spoke to some of my adult students who said something similar, meaning it brought back really bad memories from the 80s. So tell us what else that you have gleaned from all of this.
Well, my understanding is of why he did it really is that's where it gets really confusing. His official reasoning didn't make much sense to me, that the lawmakers had become involved in an anti-state plot that supported North Korea. According to the BBC, President Yoon called the opposition-controlled National Assembly a den of criminals that was attempting to paralyze the government.
Yes.
I may have been distracted by my own the political news in my own country, in the United States, but I didn't notice any of that going on in Korea. However, the AP did point out that opposition leaders have said that this declaration came after extended frustrations after he failed to achieve much of his success in getting his policies adopted by Parliament, especially since the opposition took over in 2022. Now, the BBC did an excellent article on the timeline of his controversies dating back to 2022 when he won the election, and pointed out that this week alone he has been locked in a political battle with opposition lawmakers over the country's budget.
Yes.
And that this was in addition to moving to impeach cabinet members and several top prosecutors, including the head of the government's audit agency for failing to investigate the First Lady.
There were a slate of things. Yes, that is true.
Yeah, and well, I'm sure all this may have played a part. It's all speculation.
Yes, I mean, we just don't know. We're not him.
Not in his mind.
We're not in his head. Well, you are a foreign national living in Korea. And so what has been the reaction that you've been hearing?
Well, other than concern from my friends and family, waking up to many, many text messages, what's going on, it really has been big news. And, to put it nicely, South Korea is generally seen as the more sane and level-headed of the two Koreas. And so this move was a huge surprise. And well, the last time the martial law was declared was after the assassination of Park Chung-hee, and it has never been invoked since the country became a parliamentary democracy.
Yes.
And several things happened internationally. But first, many countries responded with concern. According to Reuters, the United States indefinitely postponed meetings of the Nuclear Consultative Group and related tabletop military exercise. And a U.S. official said, speaking on condition of anonymity, while a White House spokesperson earlier said that the U.S. was not notified in advance, and said they were seriously concerned by the developments we are seeing on the ground.
Yes.
Also, Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson, who is due to hold a summit with Yoon this week, will skip the scheduled visit. He spoke up, the spokesman said on Wednesday.
Yes.
Other things have happened economically. Reuters is reporting that the won plunged against the dollar to a 2-year low before rebounding after the martial law was lifted, but it still hasn't fully recovered. It also fell against the yen and the euro, and the value of cryptocurrencies in Korea also crashed. In addition, until last night, even with the threats of North Korea, occasionally, North Korea occasionally spouts to South Korea. South Korea has been seen as a very safe place to travel to, but because of this incident, several countries have issued travel warnings for tourists already in and planning to travel to the country. These countries include the U.S., U.K., and Canada. This is because of the likelihood of protests in the next coming days. Hyung-Gyu Lin, a career researcher at the Department of Asian Studies at the University of British Columbia in Canada, believe that protests will likely persist even after martial law is lifted.
So, from what, the extensive reading and research that you've done, how damaging might this be to Korea's reputation abroad? Because this is something that is on the minds of people who live in Korea.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Well, it's unfortunately, it's a question that's not really known quite yet. Some experts have contended that this may be more damaging to South Korea's reputation as a liberal democracy than the January 6th riots were in the United States. In fact, Eric Isley at Ewha University told the BBC that Yoon's declaration of martial law appeared to be both a legal overreach and a political miscalculation, unnecessarily risking South Korea's economic economy and security.
Yes. So anything else you want to add in terms of what you've dug up, the response to all of this? Because this, once again, is not just a domestic issue anymore.
Yeah.
This is an international one.
Well, I'm sure that we're actually probably going to see an impeachment trial. Whether the protests are similar to those that preceded the impeachment of President Park Geun-hye in 2007, I'm not entirely sure whether that's going to happen. But I'm sure that with the amount of emotions that people are feeling, it's really not going to be a quiet affair.
Yes.
In fact, one of my students, she's talking to me yesterday, she spent the entire night on the news and spent all day trying to process it and was just exhausted the entire time.
Yes.
The Democratic Party has already moved to impeach President Yoon, and they will vote on Saturday, and they just need 1/3 of the assembly or 200 of the 300 members to impeach. And they already control 175, and as Haley said, they have 190 already declared. So with members of Yoon Party upset with his action, there's a high likelihood that it'll pass.
Well, we're going to have to wait and see. They might be changing their tune. We'll see. We're going to continue to cover this story. But thank you so much for bringing us what you have researched regarding this. We'll check in with you next week.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.
This was Chris, and we'll be back with hour number 2, so stay tuned, including our special interviews. So that's going to be happening. Also, we will also continue our coverage of what's happening with the aftermath of martial law. So yes, stay tuned for the entirety of hour number 2. And did I mention the topic, holding space for special interview? What is that, you're wondering? If you're curious, well, you're going to have to check in with us. I'll be back in a moment.
befm 부산영어방송.
부산의 축제 어디까지 즐겨보셨나요? 과거와 현재, 미래가 공존하는 항구도시 부산.
We are
the firefighter duo.
Winter is so dry. Let's prevent fire by keeping these 3 rules. If you take caution, you can prevent a fire.
The #1 cause of fire in winter are electric blankets. Take special caution with highly flammable materials such as memory foam, toppers, and bedding.
Number 2, having too many appliances on the power outlet is dangerous. always unplug all the appliances that you're not currently using.
Number 3. Check the heater is off before leaving the house. Leaving it on for an extended period of time can cause a fire.
Let's all take part in preventing fire and have warm and safe winter this year.
Tune into befm 부산영어방송 for an emergency broadcast.
This campaign is brought to you by befm 부산영어방송.
지역 경제가 힘차게 출발합니다. 기업들이 고객을 향해 더 빨리 가려면 방송 광고라는 X를 밟으세요. 경제도 기업도 더 힘차게 달려가니까요. 방송 광고의 작은 힘, 경제의 큰 힘입니다. 부산 방송광고발전협의회.
The time is now 8 o'clock.
Good morning, Dynamic Busan.
Yeah, you're waking up. Time to shake it up. Tell the world good morning and find out what's going on.
Well, hi there, folks. There's everything from comedy to lively chat to music.
Broadcasting from a room about the size of your closet.
All calls are recorded.
What show is this?
Live from Korea's dynamic city, this is Morning Wave in Busan.
I'm sorry, who'd you say you were?
It is now 8 o'clock and this is news highlights. Opposition parties introduce impeachment motion against Yoon. The Democratic Party, or DP, and 5 other opposition parties reported a motion to impeach President Yoon Suk-yeol to the National Assembly after Yoon's martial law declaration was blocked by the National Assembly. The opposition parties tabled the motion to the parliamentary plenary session early this morning on grounds that Yoon's martial law declaration violated the Constitution and other laws on popular sovereignty and the separation of powers. In the meantime, hundreds to thousands of people gathered across the country yesterday evening for candlelight protests. Citizens criticized Yoon's attempt to declare martial law and called for his immediate resignation. Defense Minister resigns as Yoon meets with party leadership. Defense Minister Kim Yong-hyun submitted his resignation to President Yoon Suk-yeol yesterday, taking responsibility for the martial law turmoil shortly after the DP called for his impeachment. Later in the evening, Yoon held a meeting with Prime Minister Han Duck-soo and People Power Party (PPP) leadership, including Chair Han Dong-hoon, likely to discuss follow-up measures to the opposition's impeachment motion. An official from Yongsan said that there was a serious discussion of the current situation and there was no mention of Yoon leaving the party. Korea won tumbles as government pledges unlimited liquidity. The South Korean currency fell to the lowest level in more than 2 years at 1,410.1 won per dollar at one point yesterday, as markets responded to President Yoon's martial law declaration. The finance ministry said that it will deploy unlimited liquidity to stabilize the country's financial markets after an emergency meeting of economy ministers. Yesterday, the country's benchmark stock index, the Kospi, closed at 2,464, down 1.44%. But market observers suggest the fallout could not be as severe as anticipated given how short-lived the martial law declaration was. Rail workers begin general strike. Unionized workers of Korea Railroad Corporation, known as KORAIL, announced a general strike beginning today, demanding higher pay and a bigger workforce. This announcement came after last-minute negotiations between KORAIL and the union fell through. This indefinite general strike began with the first train this morning and affects the operations of high-speed KTX trains and regular train services across the country, as well as subway services in the capital area. The government said that it will deploy available transportation-related resources across the country to minimize public inconveniences. French Prime Minister ousted in no confidence vote. French Prime Minister Michel Barnier has lost a vote of no confidence, leading to a collapse of his government 3 months after he came into office. Members of parliament voted overwhelmingly in support of the motion against him, following his controversial move to use special powers to push through next year's budget without a vote. This is the first time a government has ousted in France in over 60 years, and President Emmanuel Macron will address the nation on Thursday, local time. Macron has already said he will not resign. And this was News Highlights. It is time for issue Wagle, and Haley's back in the studio with us, as you can see.
With promises that hour number 2 will be lighter, slightly.
Yes. However, the first one, it is about the martial law related issue. All 190 lawmakers present at the National Assembly voted to strike down the martial law, meaning that they did not support it. However, one Busan area local regional council member did.
Okay, promises, this is my final martial law story for today, but we're going to make it wagle.
Okay.
Because
it is wagle.
Yes. So Busan City Council member representing Gijang County, this is Council member Park Jong-chul of the People Power Party. So on the night that President Yoon Suk-yeol declared martial law, about 40 minutes later, Park took to his social media page and wrote, and I'm direct translating him,
okay,
I completely agree and support the president's declaration of martial law. One must eradicate the pro-North Korean forces and prevent the paralysis of the executive branch in order to safeguard a free country. He also added that there's a family death and funeral going on, but he will ask the families he'll excuse himself and go to Seoul to stand with the president. But, and you can kind of imagine what the responses would have been and were. But at 8 a.m. yesterday, after kind of everything got shut down in terms of the martial law, he said he was dejected. 허탈하다. That the 6-hour, what he called happening incident, that key aides and ruling party leadership didn't even know about martial law being put into place. And he stated that, this lifting of martial law, it means everything goes back to normal. But the wording was ambiguous, that what are you dejected about? Are you dejected about there having been this unorganized martial law, or that things are going back to normal? Was kind of the big question.
Yes.
So reporters have called him to ask for his clarification and the intent behind this comment. He has not answered.
Well, apparently this post was not taken well by the people.
Right. So local civic groups, because I can't read the comments without getting fired.
Right.
But local civic groups held press conferences and released statements saying that, and calling for his resignation, because most citizens saw this martial law declaration as a serious infringement of democracy and human rights. It included arrests without warrants. And they stated that a unanimous vote by the National Assembly, it was a victory from the will of the people and for democracy.
Yes.
And that his comments are in disregard of the country's democracy and these rights. And Park has since then deleted his post, by the way.
Okay, well, that was definitely woggle-worthy. All right, next, we're going to move on from the martial law issue for now, because we have other issues to cover. So this...
Okay,
it's not a good one, Haley.
No, it's not.
This is about an alleged murder that has shocked many people. So what is this about?
Well, we report on the story, so
yes.
Something about not yelling at the messenger.
All right.
But this happened earlier this week, and by the way, there is a trigger warning, especially if you're listening with your children. There's violence in this story.
Okay.
So Gyeongbuk's Kimcheon police, they have arrested a man in his 30s for robbery and murder charges. The suspect faces allegations of having murdered the victim, another man in his 30s, at a home in the city. But this man was a total stranger. They did not know each other. The suspect claims he told the police that the crime happened out of economic need. He was looking for someone to rob and kill the victim, allegedly, when he was leaving his home. I mean, right, we see these stories many times. So why am I bringing this now? It's what happened afterwards that is appalling, to say the least. So the suspect, after the alleged murder took place, the suspect used the victim's ID and check card to go to a hospital and get treatment for injuries sustained during that attack.
Oh, good.
He also spent millions of won at convenience stores and motels. So he just went around spending the money of the man.
He went on a spending spree of the card with the murder victim?
The alleged murder victim, yes. Oh, no, this gets worse.
Okay.
When he withdrew everything out of the card,
yes,
he took out a bank loan.
How?
From the cell phone of the victim using the fingerprint of at this point, the body. Took out 60 million won. The police said he did not spend that money, but that's why we have robbery charges on top of murder charges.
Wow. I mean, this is a doozy. Okay. Yeah. Well, I don't know what to say to that. That's just beyond.
It's
beyond.
Appalling. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So the next story goes in line with the first one. Haley.
With this one.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. This one, the second story.
It's the second one.
Yes.
Yeah.
So even in the most gruesome murder or cases of violence, the police don't immediately release the name of suspects. And there is actually a parliamentary petition on this very issue.
Right. So because when we see, the perp walk as it is,
yes.
They're usually masked and they have hats on. And
yes.
if they are not, the media has to, by law, we have to blur the faces. And it's always like, in Korean, it's like ACPC. I'm not cussing. It's just, Mr. A, so-and-so A, B. So because of the law, we do not disclose the identity of criminal suspects unless these are exceptional cases. And there's a whole process involving the police committee that judges whether or not to release that information. So there is a parliamentary petition right now on the full identity disclosure of violent criminal suspects, and that has received 50,000 signatures. By the way, that's no laughing matter on a parliamentary petition.
Yes.
Because there is a very, I can't say annoying, but very particular login process. And yeah,
it's very difficult.
It's very difficult.
Yes.
And you have to really want to do it. So 50,000 people did this, and now it has been sent up to the relevant standing committee. So the petition was written by actually a JTBC journalist who wrote, South Korea is excessively generous to violent criminals.
Yes.
And that not disclosing their identities, it leads to the inability to prevent and suppress such crimes. So I actually pointed to precedents, a 1998 Supreme Court ruling, which was kind of the turning point for this happening and what the journalists call the prioritization of the rights of criminals and not the victims. So he stated that it infringes upon press freedoms as we cannot, you see what we have thrown up on
it is pixelated to the point where
it can be anyone.
Is that a face even? Like, do we know what that face?
It's a face, but it can be anyone's face. That it infringes upon press freedoms to report on these issues with anonymous names and the pixelated, blurred out faces. And also, while there is a process by the police committee to decide whether to release information, that those standards, the criteria, he claims that they're very vague. Previously, JTBC, the station disclosed the name and the face of a 28-year-old suspect who allegedly killed his fiancée by stabbing her almost 200 times, even after the police decided not to. This man was 23 years, this man received 23 years in prison, and he'll be in his very early 50s when he gets out.
Yes.
So the point is, shouldn't the public know who this man is? Because he will be 51 years old after he's released following this violent crime.
Relatively still young. I mean,
fairly young.
Yes.
I mean, yeah. So this is a very sensitive issue, though, with many facts to consider. The people's right to know, of course,
Yes.
the victim's rights. But then, there are human rights protections. But the people who did sign the petition said that as crimes get more and more violent, disclosing these suspects' identities is no longer an option.
Right. And I have to say, as we're going through this serious story, the listeners are trying to make us laugh.
Is that why you're okay?
I was 정말 입술 깨물었어요 because we're talking about murder and like really serious stuff.
Right.
And JB kept on saying 더 다운된 듯 한데요. Haley, so he's blaming you.
Oh my God, guys,
Yes.
the
Throw
messenger.
the stone at
Tell the world
Haley.
to do better.
We're collectively wagging our fingers at you.
Great.
We gotta
All right,
end it.
come at
Is
me.
there a happy ending?
There is, you
Oh,
guys.
thank goodness,
You
'cause
guys, I try.
We need it.
I try
We need it
so
today.
hard.
Okay,
I try so
so
hard.
we need something light,
Right.
something warm, fuzzy.
Our topic today.
Yay.
People
Yes.
who make you happy, make your day. Usually it's y'all, but you're all yelling at me, so I gotta go find new friends, which
Yes.
is God, so hard. Small acts of kindness and also repaid.
Oh, really?
So we're gonna go
Okay.
back to that ginormous snowstorm from last week.
yes.
A convenience store worker in Hwasong, Gyeonggi province, was, well, as everybody was doing, shoveling snow around the store.
Okay.
And then a customer comes.
Yes.
He's an excavator 굴착기 driver / operator.
Okay.
They come into the parking lot. He enters the store. He buys a lunchbox and says, I actually haven't eaten all day. I missed my meal because, he was like
was
the
busy.
most in-demand guy that
Yes.
week. So can I eat inside the store? Here's the thing about Korean convenience stores. There are usually tables outside. By the way, you
Yes.
can't drink alcohol there. I just want to throw that out there. But you can eat, except what if there are like tens of centimeters of snow piled up on those tables, and it's also freezing cold.
Yes.
Right. So he says, can I eat inside? It's usually you don't do that, but may I? The clerk said, of course. Not only that, he or she took out the chair from behind the counter that they were using and gave it to the driver.
Yes.
He finished eating, got in his excavator, but then instead of driving away, used that machine to clear all the snow from around the store, the parking lot, and even the roads around the business for 30 minutes. And if you've ever cleared snow, Seattleite, Californian, and we both live in Busan, so we don't know. I've done it once in my life. I was a teenager. I was like,
Where were you?
Seattle gets this random burst of snow, and we didn't know, so we let it kind of sit and like pile up for about 3 days. So we had ice blocks. It's painful.
Yes.
It is painful work. But then having an excavator do it for you is lovely.
Aww.
And then they had this lovely exchange. The worker thanked the driver and said, hey, I just gave you this. It was like such a simple act. I just gave you space to rest, holding space to rest. And then the driver said, that's, I really appreciated it. And they were both like, what I did was nothing.
Aww.
But you know what? It's not nothing.
And the fact that we have social media, I love that we have social media. So, Haley can scrape all the good stories and bring them to y'all.
Yeah.
So hopefully tomorrow, Friday, we'll have a few brighter stories.
Be better, world.
Yes, be. All right. And by the way, I know it's been kind of deep. And we've had the serious faces on, but because of what's been happening domestically, I hope that all the wavers out there that you understand, and we hope to bring you brighter news.
We try to bring balance of what's happening versus also lighter things.
Yes. All right, we're gonna get to a song after our weather and traffic. I got it. So here is your updated weather and traffic. Okay, here's your traffic update at 8:17. It looks backed up on 만덕대로 from Sukdung intersection to Deokjeon intersection. It's also congested on Gwangan Bridge, that top portion. Usually, always, right, going towards the Daeyeon overpass, but particularly so right now. Also slow on 중앙대로 from Yangnyeong intersection to Songgong three-way intersection. As for one more area, it's also looking congested on Bonnyeonglo from Daeyeon ramp to Gwangan tunnel. It is currently 4 here in Centum. It's going to go up to 12 today. Looking across the country, we're looking at near zero or below zero temperatures in the central and Gangwon regions for a very cold morning. Snow forecast in many parts of the country, and the roads are expected to be extra slippery with low visibility. What does that mean? Leave early and be careful out there. This was your traffic and weather.
Yo, man, I don't think they heard you. Won't you tell them what your name is?
This is a song request from Benny, 나만의 친구 by Solid.
맨날 거리에서 허전해진 나의 마음 달려라 했어 그래 난 내 주변 사람 모두 다 내 친구는 아냐 머리 아플 일에 빠져있을 때도 가끔 내가 생각하는 사람이 있어 바로 나 여기까지 함께 했었던 우리 이름 바로 친구였어
지쳐가는 하루 우연히 나의 어린 시절 그립던 친구를 봤어 마주 앉아있던 지난 얘기 속에 지루하지 않았던 기분 난 알고 있니 지금 난 널 보면 또 다른 기억 속으로 추억보다 깊은 얘기만 들어가 이렇게 만난 우리만의 시간
잊어버린 아침 맨날 거리에서 허전해진 나의 마음 달려라 했어 그래 난 내 주변 사람 모두 다 내 친구는 아냐 머리 아픈 일에 빠져있을 때도 가끔 내가 생각하는 사람이 있어 바로 나 여기까지 함께 했었던 우리 이름 바로 친구였어
지쳐가는 하루 우연히 나의 어린 시절 그립던 친구를 봤어 마주 앉아있던 지난 얘기 속에 지루하지 않았던 기분 난 알고 있니 지금 난 널 보면 또 다른 기억 속으로 추억보다 깊은 얘기만 들어가 이렇게 만난 우리만의 시간
Yo, man, I don't think they heard you. Won't you tell them what your name is?
Gentlemen.
알고 있니 지금 난 널 보면 또 다른 기억 속으로 추억보다 깊은 얘기만 들어가 이렇게 만난 우리만의 시간 약속해봐 그렇게 살다가 서로를 쳐다보게면 언제까지라도 위로할 수 있게 우리는 영원한 친구일 거야.
Were you guys dancing along to that song? Okay, welcome back. So we're talking about our text topic. Like the last story about, the guy who snow shoveled everything around that convenience store. Is there someone in your life that just kind of picks you up, that makes you feel good? Someone maybe that you're not that close with even, but, you see them every day. The example I gave is... yes. Our 여사, we call her 여사님. I hate using the term like cleaning lady, but she does clean her office. She does a great job. And I just feel kind of like warm, like I'm coming home to a second home, which is BFM, because I feel really comfortable here. But having someone here in the morning to kind of greet me, it's such a big difference. Like on days she has off, like on a public holiday, it's very 썰렁해, kind of like chilly and cold. And I feel like, oh, is anybody here? And sometimes it can be a little scary because it's kind of dark, right? So she's my person in the morning. And according to what you guys are saying, a lot of you, for example, 최희숙 Waver says, I'm grateful for my loved ones. They have been doing well this year. So she went real personal with her response. And so many of you are actually saying, like Tommy, who always is so dryly, really sarcastic, dry wit all the way. But he actually said that BFM Morning Wave and Busan members make my day better and always thankful for that. So we're thankful for you, Tommy, a.k.a. my Jerry. Yes. And I am Tom. All right. So we'll be back with our special interview. Holding space. Do you know what this is? What is it? Well, for those of you who are dying to find out, it's actually once a therapeutic term, and it has found its way into pop culture and is kind of gaining fresh attention. And by the way, have you seen the film or, Wicked? I mean, that's on the minds of lots of people because fans of the musical, especially its main song, Defying Gravity, 중력을 벗어나, are connecting with this idea of creating safe emotional environments for themselves and others as well. So apparently there was this viral moment featuring, Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande discussing this emotional connection. And it really shows how deeply this story really resonates with audiences worldwide. So let's find out more about this. We have joining us today Ms. Heather Plett, who is the author of The Art of Holding Space and Where Tenderness Lives. Also the co-founder of the Center for Holding Space. Let's say hi to her. Hi, welcome to our program.
Yes. Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes. So first of all, we kind of need a definition to start with. So what exactly does holding space mean?
Sure. So the most simple way to understand it is it's what we do when we show up for each other in a way that is supportive of the other person, that doesn't try to control them or judge them or try to fix them. And we do this in the best way that we can without our ego getting involved or without trying to be the hero of the story.
Thanks for explaining so we have a better understanding of this. And why do you think that people all around the world are actually relating to this concept even more so these days?
Well, when I had a viral blog post about it back in 2015, I got a lot of emails from people responding with gratitude for this language because it helped them understand what they were doing in a particularly difficult moment. A lot of people from all over the world who are holding space in really challenging environments, in conflict zones, in prisons, in hospice care, and hospitals. And they were really thankful that they had a way to articulate this practice of just being present for another person. So I think it's just mostly about a new way of understanding what we're doing. We all know how to do this intuitively, yes, but this gives some language to that.
I see. And so I mentioned our intro of this song, Defying Gravity. Defying Gravity has kind of become almost this anthem for empowerment. It's really resonating with so many people. So how would you hold space for someone trying to defy their own gravity, whether it's like, chasing a dream or even overcoming a challenge or obstacle?
Yeah, well, holding space as a practice really allows a person to find their own strength and to see themselves in a way that has the power and the capacity to do something big and important. And so a lot of the times when you're holding space for somebody, you're really serving kind of as a mirror for them to see their capacity to defy gravity. So I think that's a really beautiful way of seeing this practice is you're giving that gift of, here, look at yourself. You have this beauty. You have this capacity.
Yes, this capacity that hopefully you are kind of sharing, not just, for yourself, but for others as well. So I hear that you teach people how to hold space for others. So what might be surprising is that I hear that, you've learned about how, people feel supported even across cultures? Is this something that you have found?
Yes. In fact, the programs that we run at the Center for Holding Space, we've had people from 6 continents all over the world sign up for these programs. So we've worked with people in many different cultures, and there is a universal quality to this practice of holding space. And so, yeah, I think it's something that everybody can gain something from. Our relationships might be different depending on our culture, but ultimately we all want to know how to support each other.
Indeed. And, as this whole idea, this concept of holding space becomes more mainstream, how do we ensure that it isn't diluted or misinterpreted, especially as, we're seeing it pop up on social media feeds or in pop culture?
Yeah, to be honest with you, early on when I was first teaching about it and writing about it, I would get a little bit protective of the term and want people to get it right. And I sort of let go of that. I thought, it's going to happen. People will make fun of a term like this. And instead of trying to defend it or protect it, what I will often do instead is just try to add a little bit to what they're saying and offer a little bit of nuance. And that feels more productive, and it offers something rather than trying to defend it or protect. So that tends to be my stance is, yes, I understand people are going to misuse terms, but maybe those of us who've been in the practice for a long time can just enhance it and offer something new to their reflection on it.
Yes. Here in our culture in South Korea, there is kind of this pressure for people to kind of always be perfect all the time, to say the right thing, whether it's mannerisms, the way we speak, the way we present ourselves, even to the way we dress. How can holding space help people kind of let go of that pressure a little bit, at least, let their hair down a little and kind of feel peace with themselves?
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is a really important part of holding space, because when I am a perfectionist, I want to control the situation. So then I can't support another person if I'm trying to control the outcome of their whatever decisions they're making or whatever challenge they're having. But in order for me to withhold some of that judgment or perfectionism, I need to really look into myself at what are the insecurities? Why am I feeling this need for perfection? And so I teach people to first hold space for themselves and to notice when that perfectionism gets triggered and why, what's the story behind that, and how can I first soothe my own nervous system so that I'm not projecting that onto other people.
That's a great point. Hopefully we can do that or practice that. And lastly, what advice would you give to someone inspired by this? Because people are very much on our feed. They're interested. They're like, what is this? Can this, can I do this? Well, so for someone who may be inspired by holding space, are there moments of personal or collective struggle that we should also know about too?
Well, one of the things I would say is start with increasing your capacity for listening. Like when you're having a conversation with someone, try not to speak as often when they're telling a story, and start with that. Like, how does it feel to genuinely listen to the person, let them unfold their whole story before I interject with anything? That's a place to start. Just a simple, okay, I'm going to let this person's story be put out without me trying to fix it or anything. That's a simple way to kind of start with the practice. And then notice how it's affecting you to be silent. If you're usually a person who has to offer advice, what's going on inside you when you withhold that advice in support of the other person?
I see. Well, here's hoping that we can actually try this, whether it's for ourselves or for others. But thank you so much for explaining what this holding space actually means. Thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
And this was Heather Plett, who has written extensively about this and advocates this holding space. So as I was conducting this interview, I was thinking, some people were commenting, one person saying, for holding space, I need my person, first of all. Well, can't we be that for others here on Morning Wave in Busan is what I'm thinking. And I definitely feel like, this holding space idea, we kind of have it going on already. So I want to thank you, the Wavers, for providing that kind of safe place to do so. And with that, we're going to play a song from Wicked. This is Defying Gravity by Cynthia Erivo featuring Ariana Grande.
Alphabet, why can you stay calm for once instead of flying off the handle? I hope you're happy. I hope you're happy now. I hope you're happy how you hurt your cause forever. I hope you think you're clever.
I hope you're happy. I hope you're happy too. I hope you're proud how you would grovel in submission to feed your own ambition. So though I can't imagine how, I hope you're happy right now.
Melvie, listen to me. Just say you're sorry. You can still be with the wizard once you've worked and waited for. You can have all you ever wanted.
I know, but I don't want it. No, I can't want it.
Something has changed within me. Something is not the same. I'm through with playing by the rules of someone else's game. Too late for second guessing. Too late to go back to sleep. It's time to trust my instincts, close my eyes, and leap. It's time to try defying gravity. I think I'll try defying gravity, and you can't pull me down. Can't I make you understand? You're having delusions of grandeur.
I'm through accepting limits, 'cause someone says they're so. Some things I cannot change, but till I try, I'll never know. Too long I've been afraid of losing love. I guess I've lost. Well, if that's love, it comes at much too high a cost. I'd sooner defying gravity. Kiss me good, I'm defying gravity, and you can't pull me down.
Come with me. Think of what we could do together.
Unlimited. Together we're unlimited. Together we'll be the greatest team there's ever been. Go end our dreams the way we planned them.
If we work in tandem, there is no fight we cannot win. Just you and I defying gravity. With you and I defying gravity.
They'll never bring us down.
Are you coming? I hope you're happy now that you're choosing this.
You too.
I hope it brings you bliss.
I really hope you get it and you don't live to regret it. I hope you're happy in the end. I hope you're happy, my friend.
No! Leave her alone! She hasn't done anything wrong! I'm the one you want! I'm the one you want! It's me! It's me! So if you care to find me to the western sky, has someone told me lately, everyone deserves a chance to fly. And if I'm flying solo, at least I'm flying free. To those who drowned me, take a message back from me. Tell them how I'm defying gravity. I'm a flying high, defying gravity. And soon I'll match them in real now. Nobody in all of Oz, no wizard that there is or was, is ever gonna bring me down. I hope you're happy. Bring me
Get your local up-to-date news from Korea and abroad right here on Morning Wave in Busan with Catherine. Stay tuned.
It is time for City Insights, which means, yes, we have Stephanie in the studio.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
네. So, we're talking about, before we get into our segment today, our text topic, is about that kind of special someone. Maybe it's not somebody like you're really close with.
Okay.
But kind of like lifts your day a little, or it kind of warms your heart. So I mentioned the 여사님 that cleans in the morning. I see her every morning. She's here before I do. I got here early, but she gets here like really early. I think she gets here like 4, like maybe 5.
Wow.
5 a.m. I think is when she comes, and like she's there greeting me, smiling. So do you have anybody like that? And no, you cannot choose family members. There's a caveat.
Okay.
Yes.
Probably the neighbor I have. So it's an older grandma. I call her 할머니. But we're not that close. But every single day she asks me, "Did you feed your husband?"
Feed your husband.
And in the beginning, I'm like, why do I need to feed my husband? But now I feel like it's such a like nice question to ask, and it's a good reminder to
feed your husband.
My husband. I don't know what that means, but I love it. I love it, and she's so nice. Yeah. Did you feed your husband?
Like, how would you say that in Korean? 남편.
Yeah. 남편 밥 먹었노? Or 밥 차려줬노? I don't know. She always asks me like, 사투리, and I say 네. But I don't cook.
That was going to say, do you though?
I don't cook.
You say ne, but
yeah, I just say ne.
and you're like inside, but I don't really cook.
Yeah, I don't cook. It's okay.
All right, we're going to dive into our first insight. What do you have for us?
All right, so our first insight highlights the Busan International Art Fair, an event that celebrates its 23rd edition this year from today until the 8th. With its innovative approach, this art fair positions Busan as a rising star in the global art market. But before we dive in, Catherine, do you enjoy checking out galleries or exhibitions?
Oh, yes. And we have like so many opportunities in Busan, so I love that, right?
Yeah.
And, the Busan International Art Fair, I don't think it's just like an art fair or any art fair.
Right.
I mean, this is like really unique. So tell us more about this
Absolutely. So this is a direct trade art market where artists and collectors from Korea and abroad can meet face to face. The event showcases over 50 emerging K-art artists in a special exhibition alongside seasoned contemporary artists.
Yes.
There's also a curated section, a selection of works by 25 Indian artists in a special exhibition. And for collectors, the art fair Save Collection offers artworks at a 30% discount.
Ooh, we love discounts, right? And so I hear that the theme for this year is kind of bold.
Yeah.
So what is it?
Yeah, so the slogan for this year is provocative emotions, cheeky expression.
What does that mean in Korean?
In Korean, 도발적 감성, 발칙한 표현. And it's very bold for I think Busan in Korea. It reflects the innovative spirit of contemporary art, encouraging audience to see the world through fresh, unconventional lenses. Now, I spoke with Ms. An Hae-jin, the exhibition director for emerging artists and the chief curator of this year's art fair.
Right.
And I had the chance to ask her about the slogan and what kind of exhibition we can expect. So let's take a listen.
현대미술 작가들은 예술이라는 무대에서 날카로운 표현과 대담한 색채를 사용해서 우리가 당연하게 여겼던 일상들을 새롭게 재해석하고 그것을 작품 속에 자기의 창의적인 도전을 담아내기도 하죠. 특히 이번 부산국제아트페어에서 신진 작가 기획전에서는요. 50명의 다양한 젊은 작가들의 작품을 보실 수 있는데 그 MZ세대들의 도발적이고 혁신적인 스타일 그런 작품들을 보시는 분들이 아마 강렬한 인상을 가지고 보시게 될 거고 또 기성세대가 상상하기 어려운 발칙한 표현들을 통해서 새로운 예술의 흐름을 보여주는 전시가 될 것이라고 생각합니다.
네. So according to Ms. An Hae-jin, contemporary artists use sharp expressions and darring colors to reinterpret everyday life, embedding their inner creative challenges within their works. Now, this year's special exhibition for emerging artists at the Busan International Art Fair will feature works by 50 young and diverse creators. These MZ generation artists, known for their provocative, innovative styles, may leave a strong impression on viewers, showcasing bold expressions and creative visions that might be unimaginable to older generations.
Right. So I'm curious as to how these, talented new artists, 50 of them, how were they selected?
All right. So each year, emerging artists are chosen through a competitive open call. This year, out of 194 applicants, 50 were selected. So that's only 1 out of 4. And on the final day of the fair, an award will be given to the most outstanding emerging artists based on evaluations by a jury, sales performance, and even audience votes.
Well, speaking of audience participation, is there a way visitors can engage directly with the artists?
Right. So from December 6th, so tomorrow until the 8th, daily docent tours featuring emerging artists will take place at 1 p.m. Visitors can meet the artists, learn about their creative processes, and also even vote for their favorites. Now, the art fair occupies halls 4C to 4F on the first floor of Bexco Exhibition Center 2. I'm planning to check it out this weekend, and Ms. An Hae-jin actually advised me to plan for plenty of time, wear comfortable shoes, and plan for a return visit if needed. And to make the most of the experience, she suggested starting with like a broader overview and then kind of going into revisiting them for a closer look and then directly engaging with artists. So she shared that it could be maybe intimidating to, walk up to an artist and ask questions. I don't know much about art, so I always get nervous even though I'm like, what is that? Is that a flower? Or, you just don't know.
And plus, you don't want to offend the artist.
Yeah.
It's like, they imagined and, created this, amazing art.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know what it is. I don't understand it.
Right. But she said they might look intimidating or shy, but if you just go up to them, most of them, 99% of them, will welcome the questions and welcome anything as well.
Yes, yes. Well, this sounds amazing. So hopefully people will partake in this, right? And we're going to jump into our second insight. So what is it?
So this one is on 들락날락. I'm sure you've heard of it.
Yes.
Busan's innovative children's integrated cultural space. This innovative initiative is transforming underutilized areas in Busan into vibrant hubs where children can explore, learn, and play.
Right.
Now, Catherine, let me ask you. What was your favorite place to hang out as a kid? Like parks, cultural center, library?
I'm going to sound like such a do-gooder.
Okay.
But it's the honest truth. Library with my mom. No, because she used to take me like every day.
Wait, really?
Like literally.
What?
You look so disappointed. You're smiling, but you're like, I don't believe you. No, it's really.
Because I was thinking like the mall. You know, like you go to the mall because there's nowhere else to go. And you just
I wasn't
walk
allowed to
around.
go to the mall until like like junior high school. But in elementary school, it's like, it was a daily ritual. We went to the library every day.
Oh, that's good.
You're like, sure.
Not judging at all.
No judgment there.
Well, 들락날락 is part of Busan's vision to become a 15-minute city, meaning basic needs like education, leisure, and culture are accessible within 15-minute distance. So if kids wants to go, you know, they want to check it out instead of mall or library, they can go check it out.
Yes. So this whole like idea of like 들락날락, I mean, it means like kind of like coming and going. I love that, the idea of it. And it sounds so welcoming because it's not like this like taktakan, like very formal, like, children's center.
Dress up.
Yeah. It sounds so like nice.
Yeah. Now, these spaces offer activities like child-friendly libraries, media art experiences, virtual reality, native English lessons, and even maker education programs.
Yes.
Since the project started in 2021, 104 locations have been confirmed across Busan, with 66 of them already open. A standout example is at City Hall's first floor lobby, which used to be very quiet, formal space, if you remember, but now it's filled with children's laughter.
Oh, yes. So what really makes this 들락날락 stand out? What do you think?
Yeah, great question. So last week, I met with Ms. Son Yeon-mi, director of the Busan City Creative Education Division, and I got to ask her about that. So let's take a listen.
들락날락은 기존의 부족한 자원들을 재구성하고 또 서로 연결하고 발전시켜 새로운 공간으로 재탄생시키는 사업입니다. 그 활용도가 떨어지는 도시 노후 공간들이 현장 조사와 협의를 통해 지역 특성에 맞게 특색 있는 공간으로 재탄생하고 있습니다. 조성된 공간에는 여러 기관이 협업하여 개별적인 자원을 서로 잇고 발전시켜 다양한 콘텐츠를 제공하고 있습니다. 이렇듯 들락날락 정책은 지자체뿐만 아니라 여러 민간기관과 시민들이 적극적인 참여와 또 협력으로 추진되고 있고 지속 가능한 발전 목표 달성을 위해 함께 노력하였다는 점이 높이 평가되었습니다.
Now, the 들락날락 initiative transforms underutilized and aging urban spaces into vibrant, purpose-driven areas through a process of reconfiguration, connection, and development. These spaces are redesigned to reflect the unique characteristics of their communities through following thorough field investigations and consultations. Once established, multiple organizations collaborate to link and enhance individual resources.
Yes.
The policy's success stems from active participation, collaboration among local governments, private organizations, and citizens. And this cooperative approach aligns with sustainable development goals and was a key factor in its recognition.
Yes. And so I think it's just proof that this 들락날락 space, rethinking urban areas, but still like benefiting children and, children, parents, family, community. That's how it goes, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Now, at 들락날락, children can enjoy diverse digital and analog experiences, physical activities, and education programs. So if you're in Busan and want to learn more, just search for Busan Children's Integrated Cultural Space, and in Korean, 부산 어린이 복합문화공간 online to find nearby locations and programs.
All right. So, I don't know. If you are in need of these type of services, who knows? You might need this tilaknalak.
Yeah, definitely.
And hopefully you'll find one near you.
Yeah, and I think this is a great way to encourage people to take their children, or I think it gives them one less burden when they're thinking about having kids as well.
That's true. That's true. Well, thank you for bringing these two insights to our listeners, and I'll check in with you real soon. Thank you, Stephanie.
Bye-bye.
And with that, before I let you go, I have some important stuff that I need to let you know about, including this. So in order to prevent wildfires in the fall and into early winter, incinerating rice paddies or fields or agricultural residue or byproducts and trash, that is all banned. So smoking or littering cigarette butts in forests or nearby forests is also banned. Please don't carry lighters, burners, or other material when you enter the mountains. If you start a fire or you somehow start a flame or bring any type of flame into a forest or areas near forests, you may be subject to fines of up to 1 million won. And if your negligence causes a wildfire, you may be subject to up to 3 years in prison or up to 30 million won in fines. So let's be careful, especially when it's this dry. This was a message from the Ministry of the Interior and Safety and the Korea Forest Service. So yes, enjoy what nature has given us. But, it's up to us to make sure that we're taking care of our environment. And we always talk about how in Busan, we have like the mountains and the trails and the oceans. And we can definitely do our part to make sure we're not contributing to making it less desirable. Yes, we talked about like lots of plastic waste with the INC5 here in Busan. Make sure that we're doing our part on that. Also, once again, when you go to the mountains, I know it's like so perfect, crisp, late fall, early winter season when you go into the mountains. But, let's be mindful of not creating trash there as well. Plus, no open flames. Well, as Leslie says, in the States, they had, with a Smokey the Bear? Only you can prevent forest fires. And we grew up on that. So definitely let's be mindful. And I wish you a very lovely Thursday. And as I said in our weather forecast today, in many parts of Korea, we have listeners from all over. You might actually see some snow. Maybe not in Busan, but in the central parts and in Gangwon, there is snow forecast, which means be extra careful. Whether you're driving or even if you're taking public transportation, make sure you're not running to your destination. We don't want any slip and falls because that can be dangerous as well. And so I wish all of you a lovely Thursday. And how about this song to take us out? Winter Wonderland by Michael Bublé. Wishing you all a great one. Bye, everybody.
Sleigh bells ring, are you listening? In the lane, snow is glistening. A beautiful sight, we're happy tonight, walking in a winter wonderland. Gone away is the bluebird, here to stay is a new bird. To sing a love song while we stroll along, walking in a winter wonderland. In the meadow we can build a snowman. We'll pretend that he is Parson Brown. He'll say, I am married, we'll say no man, but you can do the job when you're in town. Later on we'll conspire as we dream by the fire to face unafraid the plans that we made, walking in a winter wonderland. can build a snowman. We'll pretend that he is Parson Brown. We'll say, are you ready? We'll say, no, man. But you can do the job when you're in town. Later on, we'll conspire as we dream by the fire. The face on